All right, hello everybody. My name is Nick Johnson. This is my beautiful wife,
What's my name?
Adinah Johnson. Adinah Johnson. So nice, I'll say it twice. We're coming at you again with a series that we've been working on, and we're getting back into it now. And that series is what, honey?
Love and respect.
Yes, love and respect. Okay. For those of you who may be unaware of that series, we have a playlist. We'll link down to it down in the comments. Also, as far as the books that we're going to be working through, we have the textbook here, which is Dr. Emerson, but then we also have the workbook that Adinah just displayed there. There'll be links to that down in the description also if you'd like to get those as well. So, chapter 7, kind of up until this point, we've been kind of, I think, setting the stage of the importance of love and respect. This is actually the last chapter before we kind of split off into some things. So we're not going to really discuss about what we're going to split off into, but it's going to happen. So the next video will definitely go down that particular path when it comes to that. But chapter 7. So chapter 7 is... She thinks she can't forgive him. He says... No one can love that woman. All right, so I can't speak to from the female perspective, but I'm going to kind of pitch this to you, honey. She thinks she can't forgive him. Is that true or false?
That is true. Forgiveness is hard. And, I had to work really hard on forgiveness. In fact, my book is called Butterfly Blue, The Power of Forgiveness and the Pain of Infertility, because the process of forgiveness it's a process, and it can be very painful. And we also have a video on the process of forgiveness. So
yes, we do, and I have to make sure to link to that as well. But the thing about it, when we get into this, one of the points that Dr. Emerson mentions is that once we talk about the crazy cycle, oftentimes women feel as though that once she forgives, it gets worse.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, why do I keep forgiving if he continues to display or do the things in which I have repeatedly forgiven him for? So that's one of the concerns that they talk about. One of the other things they talk about is things not being fair.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things that I told our son, I don't know, maybe he's like 2 years old. Once he got past the no stage, the first time I ever heard him say something was not fair, I told him life wasn't fair. So we really have to think about that. Because there oftentimes in our relationship, there is there are limited times where there's equality.
Right.
When I say equality, I don't mean to sound chauvinistic, but I'm just saying it's not, everyone's not going to be at the same level all the time,
Right.
In our relationship, it might be a situation where I'm just riding high, and Adinah may not be feeling that way, and vice versa. So that's what I mean by equality. So we have to understand that sometimes we have to be willing to step up and do certain things that the other person might not necessarily be ready to do or in a position to do.
Yeah, and in the book it says the person that's the most mature has to be the one to get it right and apologize and make amends. Yes,
we do. And maturity has nothing to do with age. I just want y'all to know. Maturity has literally nothing to do with age. Maturity has to do, and once again, it could be episodal. There might be certain situations where you're able to go ahead and in that particular point be the champion of the relationship. And there are other times where that just might be something that you struggle with, and you really find it hard to really take that high road, and the other person will need to step in and be the more mature in that particular situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and dive on in and maybe run through a few of these questions, honey.
Yeah, let's get some of the questions going.
All right. I got you. That sounds good to me. All right. Here, and we're going to go ahead, I'm starting on page 74 here. And we just talked about forgiveness and the importance of forgiveness. And I'll just read like the front end of this question here. It says, as Dr. Emerson has counseled wives over the years, Dr. Emerson often hears comments like, forgive him. Yes, I know what Jesus said about 70 times 7, and I'll forgive him. but how many times?
Right.
And that kind of goes back to, hey, I'm getting sick and tired of really forgiving this person for doing certain things.
Yeah.
But here, the latter part of it, it says, can granting forgiveness, even when it isn't warranted, really help a situation at all?
I think it can. I think it can help the situation. And I think also once you realize that your partner has goodwill, that you will understand that, or many times they would appreciate when you do come to them and say, you know, I'm sorry, or get things right. And then I think when it's your turn, or when you're not necessarily feeling as benevolent, then they would say, yes, they will say, you know, well, they forgave me, or, you know, they'll use that goodwill oftentimes, I believe.
Yeah. You know, I feel as though it does help a situation. Because even in this particular chapter, it says that, you know, you have kind of that forgiveness that you will give someone. But then when they don't ask for it, but then sometimes they say, okay, well, if an individual would ask for forgiveness, many times the wife would be open to forgive, but oftentimes that husband will not ask for forgiveness because they don't see an error in their ways.
Or they don't feel like the wife is going to forgive them. So it's like oftentimes people are like, well, why bother asking for forgiveness again, because I keep messing up, and why would this person forgive me again?
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of people feel.
Yeah. Now, I'm saying that in the context of what Dr. Emerson says about husbands and wives, but I feel as though it's applicable on both sides.
Yeah.
In regards to, I think there are times when, you know, the shoe, you know, can go on either foot, really, to be honest with you. And, you know, sometimes you can't forgive someone, but I think it's realistic that at a certain point, an individual will be like, hey, you know, this same thing keeps happening. I keep forgiving. We have to do something different.
Yeah, it's insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as that question, I mean, I agree with it. I do feel as though granting forgiveness, even if it's not asked, does help. But then it kind of gets into, and once again, we'll put a link to the video, it gets into forgiving someone, and, you know, hey, do I tell you that I forgave you? Do I not tell you? Do I just come up and say, I forgive you? You know, just kind of just stuff like that. So, you know, there's a lot of logistics actually going to forgiveness, but the biggest thing is that when you choose to forgive, really you want to step away from a lot of the feelings that you have as far as on retribution and getting evening the score and stuff like that. You really want to do that. So
that's true.
That's it. So that's question number 18 there.
Well, and I wanted to put you on the spot since you're saying that.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
And these are some notes I wrote for this particular one. What is the biggest thing you've had to forgive me for?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this one. Biggest thing I had to forgive you for.
Don't say the.
I know. No, don't. Or I wasn't even gonna say that one about a cologne bottle. Because I would have had to be unconscious to forgive you, so I can't really do that. Okay. So I think the biggest thing I feel like I had to forgive you about.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you want to?
I'll go first. While you think
go
about
ahead.
It.
All right.
I think the biggest.
This is unscripted.
Yes, completely unscripted.
At least she knew about it. I didn't.
Well, I caught you off guard, and I went back and forth whether I wanted to ask this question.
It's all right.
But the biggest thing, and I wrote about this in my book, that I had to forgive you for is when you kept saying you're acting childish. And so that was a big deal for me because I am like, you're not going to call me names.
Yeah.
And that's because I've always felt like it escalates. You know, today I'm childish, or today I'm acting childish, then tomorrow I'm childish, and then I think it escalates. And so I just wasn't interested in being called any names or anything negative or derogatory. And that was at the very beginning of our marriage, like at 2000. So that was a hard one for you. And we talked about that too, where you were like counting the days to where you did not say I was acting childish.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be quick. I feel as though there's an add-on, and I almost feel like I think if we could probably unpack that for a whole nother, I think, video. So
Okay.
I won't really get into that, but I think that's a good point as far as forgiveness around that, and then really trying to do something different. So okay, so I'll take that. Okay, so the biggest thing I feel like I had to forgive you for. Ooh wee. Okay.
That
so,
many?
No, I'm trying to think of something. Okay, probably the biggest thing I feel like I probably had to forgive you for was, you know what? I won't necessarily piggyback on what you said.
Yeah.
But that whole situation was a source of frustration for me.
Right.
Because for me saying that you was childish was like nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not using swear words. I'm not doing anything. So I'm like, all right. So I can't say nothing.
Yeah.
There was a sense of frustration. But I mean, just as far as feeling like something I had to forgive you.
I think during that time you would say something you would say, "You're ripping me a new one," and I'm like,
I want y'all this potty mouth I got, okay?
Yes.
Ripping you a new one, childish. You would think I was a sailor the way the bad words I use.
do you think? Okay, so let me ask you this: do you think I was being extra sensitive?
I think in that situation you're being extra sensitive, but I had to come to a realization that it did not matter the way I felt about it. I knew how it made you feel,
Right.
so I had to try to stop doing it. So it was challenging. It was frustrating to me, but I did find a way. Okay, well I got to get something that I had to forgive you about, because if not, everybody gonna think you perfect.
I thought we just worked through that one.
Oh, did we work through it?
I don't know. Go ahead and tell me.
Man, I think probably the biggest thing that I feel like I had to forgive you for was, I'm really drawing a blank.
You can't think of anything.
Honestly, I mean anything of. Here you go. I mean something of like substance.
I'm sorry. I should have told you before the video started.
I tell you what, right now, I have to forgive you for putting me on the spot.
Great.
Now,
Okay.
I mean, but do you have another question by any chance? I can maybe, that is another question you might have for me, though?
No, but I do want to say that my next line is, all have sinned, and we all keep asking God to forgive us. So it's important that we understand that we would, our spouse is going to make mistakes. So I think it's not fair. You're still thinking about one. Stop it. I think it's not fair if you can't, if you're always asking God to forgive you, because we sin and we mess up every day. So your spouse will mess up and sin as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I think just kind of going into that, and we just have to remember that, whether we do it intentionally or not, we're going to do something to mess up.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. Now, we all do stuff, even if your spouse can't remember what the biggest thing you had to apologize, like forget him for, don't mean it ain't happening. But so bottom page 19.
I thought for sure you were going to throw me under the bus for that one. I can't think of anything either that you've had to forgive me for, but I figured you would think of something major and you would just go ahead and throw me under the bus.
Nah, see. There you go. So, just on the bottom of the page, it says, nothing is easier than judging. Nothing is harder than forgiving. Mm-hmm. It's real easy for us to kind of sit up and talk about what other individuals talk about, in the Bible, where it refers to how we're quick to talk about, the splinter in somebody else's eye, not, I think they call it a motor, the log in ours. Mm-hmm. So it's real easy for us to see what other people are doing. It's hard for us to see what we're doing ourselves. Also, I want to talk about question number 20, unless you have something else you want to talk about.
No.
Okay. Question number 20. It's this term that's probably gotten pretty popular the last couple of years, and you're way cooler than me. So I already know you probably are already aware of this. When somebody they say, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot my shot."
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So somebody shoot your shot. I mean, that basically you put it out there. You're gonna let everybody know how you feel. Well, it's interesting because Dr. Emerson inside of here does not necessarily talk about shooting your shot, but he talks about rebound.
Right.
As far as like when as a man we do something, we miss, we got to try to go and rebound.
Yeah.
We've got to try to go in and try to make up for it.
And get it right, yeah.
And, the thing about it is, and even in the book, I talk about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
And you do so even as, a man, I say a man or a woman, regardless, in our relationships, we got to be willing to try something.
Right.
It may work, which is awesome, but it may not. And if it does not work, figure out where it went awry, figure out what went wrong, rebound, get the ball back, and shoot again.
Yeah,
that's really what you have
keep
to do.
trying. I think that's the major point of this is keep trying in your marriage and in your relationship and understand that your partner has goodwill for you. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be perfect and they're not going to always get it right, but keep trying. I think that's important.
Yeah. What happens a lot of times, if we keep with the sports, I guess, analogies, it's like, okay, a lot of times people say, well, what, if you're not happy, you take your ball and do what?
Go home.
Go home, yeah. But at this particular point, the game's over.
Home.
Yeah, you're home, but the game's over.
Right.
There's nothing else that you can do.
Well,
So,
then that's divorce when you're talking about a husband and a wife. Then it's over.
yeah. It's a lot of analogies, around sports. But kind of the biggest thing is that, it just takes a lot of effort.
It does.
No matter if you're talking about boxing, they're like, hey, keep swinging.
Right.
A lot of times we come to, being a lumberjack, they're like, keep chopping wood.
Right.
You just got to keep doing whatever you can.
Right.
Because as we tell couples, the longer you stay in it, believe it or not, it does get somewhat easier.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people cash in way too early.
Right.
Guess what? I'll say this. That person might have some quirks and some issues, but guess what? You too.
Yeah.
So get over yourself. If you really want to have, because we've talked about it, it gets more complicated every time you get, you enter into another marriage and another relationship. So just really, think about what you're willing to, what you're willing to really step away from to go out into the unknown.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's really not worth it.
And I think too, it's so important that in a relationship that you grow and you build on the relationship, but that you also continue to fall in love with the person that you're with and continue to learn new things about them and continue to have a deeper relationship and a deeper connection with them.
Yeah, that's true. You really have to, because, I've said this to Adinah several times. I think it's safe to say, I don't think we're quite old, but we have gotten older together.
Right.
That's for sure. We're at a particular point in our relationship where it's like, hey, you know what? We're just thankful to be together.
Right.
Yeah. Something else you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. I guess, and it goes back to, they talk about Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fallen short.
Yeah.
And that's it. We all have. So I know that we all do things and say things that we don't necessarily need to do. And also they talk about in 1 Peter as far as seeking peace and pursuing it.
Yeah.
And that's extremely important too. So sometimes if it takes forgiving to seek peace, forgive. If that means, going in for the rebound, go for it. Mm-hmm. That's really what you have to do as far as trying to get off that crazy cycle and get into the energizing cycle that we're going to talk about in the chapters to come.
Yeah, so. And in this one, it says the husband can say, I'm sorry, I know I've been unloving, to apologize and get back in in the loving cycle.
Oh, yeah, that is.
That's on.
Yeah, that is on the bottom of it.
Yep, 21. Question 21, it says the husband, that's just an opportunity for him to apologize.
Yeah.
Because it's on husbands this week.
Yeah, because oftentimes say that felt disrespectful.
Yeah.
Have I been unloving? And that's one of the biggest things we talk about. So I think that kind of brings us where we need to be on chapter 7.
Yep.
We appreciate y'all for being here. We appreciate for those of you who have subscribed. Also, if you are not a subscriber, we would ask that you would subscribe, that you would also check us out on our social media platforms that are below. Also, that you would share, that you would like, and do just about anything else that you would like to do with the video as well, because hey, we're here for you all to assist in enriching marriages and supporting relationships. Well, anything else, honey?
Nope. All
right. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. This is Nick Johnson. This is my wife, Adinah Johnson. See, I got it right that time. All right. Well, I ask that you would take care of yourself and keep loving one another.
Yeah. Bye.